Today is Thursday, February 26th. Pokemon Day is tomorrow, celebrating the 30-year anniversary of Pokemon, and with this celebration, they plan to announce a ton of information about upcoming projects. In the days leading up to this event, Pokemon has already announced that the classic games Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green are being ported to the Switch and Switch 2 consoles. But what everyone is really waiting for is more information regarding Pokemon Champions, the upcoming title that, as far as we can tell, is focused solely on battling and is planned to become the centralized hub for all things competitive Pokemon gaming. Ever since the initial announcement for Pokemon Champions, we haven't actually gotten any new information, including a release date. But the general consensus from the video game community is that we are expecting the game to go live during or immediately after the Pokemon Day announcements. Champions is also confirmed to be playable for mobile devices, not just Nintendo hardware. This indicates that the game can go live at any moment, just like any other mobile game could. That said, a lot of us are planning on playing this game tomorrow. While I think a game designed around becoming the hub for all things related to Pokemon video games is a fantastic idea, it is also worth pointing out that this is the Pokemon company we're talking about here, and there's a good chance that they drop the ball and end up launching the game without all the features it truly needs. So I wanted to take today to talk about what I think the game needs to include in order to stay relevant for a long time. I have high hopes for the game itself, and I think there is a lot of potential, but if Champs is to last, it's going to need a lot of support. So first and foremost, Pokemon Champions is going to be a battle-exclusive game, with no emphasis on anything other than battle-type content. This is really good because it lets us focus on the things that we really like in a Pokemon game, specifically battling, and we don't have to worry about any of the extra filler stuff. We can just hop straight into the battles and send it. However, unlike previous entries in the series, I think there is an opportunity to expand on the options for battling, unlike we've ever been able to do before. I think it'd be really cool to see Pokemon introduce their own tiering system, similar to how Pokemon Showdown does, and then open up new ladders for those tiers. It's worth noting that Showdown has a massive variety of tiers to choose from, and they're up all the time. I don't think Pokemon Champions needs this. I think they could benefit from having just a couple different tiers to choose from that are running for a longer period of time, and then maybe swap those out as time moves on. But I do think it'd be really interesting to see what would happen if we had a maybe even community-focused tiering system, where we have a overused and underused tier for our standard formats, maybe introducing a system where the community votes on which Pokemon belong in the tier as time goes on through the game's lifecycle. I mainly think that this would be an important thing to have in the game, because in a game that's focused all about battling, you want to be able to battle with all of your favorites, and a lot of Pokemon aren't going to be able to hold up very well in the quote-unquote standard format. So introducing another option for people to use their favorite Pokemon while also not facing down the gods of the restricted format could be a huge boon to the game's lifecycle. I think also if they were to do their own formats, this would open up some more fun community-oriented formats as well. And the first one that comes to mind is going to be Little Cup. I think it would just be cool to have an official Little Cup format in an actually sanctioned Pokemon game rather than all just on Pokemon Showdown or in community-hosted tours. I think there's a market for this, and I think a lot of people could enjoy it. The last format I think that could be a really cool one is dependent entirely on the Pokedex of Pokemon Champions, but I think having a rotation of generation-exclusive formats could also be really fun. I'm talking Gen 1 only, Gen 3 only, etc., etc. I think there's just a huge market for laddering with different formats like this, and it could just be a lot of fun and a huge boost to the game's lifecycle also. So adding to all of these different formats, I think it's important that we also have a way as a community to host and participate in online tournaments. This way no third-party websites or resources are required, just an easy way for people to log into the game, grab their team, hop into a tournament, and start playing. This would be a huge boost to accessibility, as well as making it so that way there is incentive for people to play the game without just grinding on ladder for the sake of grinding on ladder. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the community. I think having community-hosted tournaments on different platforms is still a very good thing, and there's a very easy way for GameFreak to fix that. All they'd have to do is add social media tags for these tournaments that people can see, and then go to their websites or go to their socials through Pokemon Champions. I doubt GameFreak would do this because I know they don't like to include a lot of third-party stuff, but if it was even just something as simple as a message or link to a different social website, I think that could be enough. This would help bring the community together through all of the people that have been hosting tournaments previously or doing anything else related to Pokemon, while tying it in also with the official game. Okay, I'm gonna bring up something a little controversial here. I think it would be really cool if Pokemon Champions introduced costumes similar to how Pokemon Unite has in their game. However, there is a huge caveat here. I need these costumes to be much less expensive than they are in Unite, because Unite is ridiculous and I don't want people paying $300 for a skin in Pokemon Champions. That said, I think it would be a huge boost to people's cosmetics and personality if they were allowed to dress up their favorite Pokemon in different costumes. I don't know how they would do this if they had 1,000 Pokemon plus to choose from, and how they would make all the skins. Unfortunately, a lot of Pokemon would probably get left in the dust. But overall, this could be a really good addition to the game, and I say that, but it could also be a really bad addition to the game if they make it too expensive. Moving away from the Pokemon themselves and onto the trainers, there is a huge opportunity to provide some cosmetics and aesthetics options for trainers to really express their personality and also just make the game look different. There are so many different things I want to go over, so I'll just kind of bullet list them real quick. First, I think a trainer should be able to change how their age looks on their game. I think in a game that's all about battling trainers across the world, I think it would be really important to make sure not every trainer is a 10-year-old or a 13-year-old like they look like in the trailer. I think having an option for adults or younger kids or even older people, giving trainers an opportunity to expand their appearance not just based on their clothes but also their age, means that most likely no two trainers will actually look the same. We also need to bring back the stickers from Generation 4, where I can throw out a Pokeball and have an effect go off whenever that Pokemon comes out. Just a good way to add some personality. Speaking of bringing things back, let's go back to Generation 3, and please bring back the animations from Colosseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, because those Pokemon all showed exactly how their personalities worked and what type of characteristics they had. Seeing Pokemon faint in Pokemon XD really let you understand what type of creature you're dealing with. They just had so much joy or whimsy or weirdness or creepy factor that it just did so well. And now it's just kind of Pokemon falls over and they're gone. I need my old animations back, which is crazy considering we're in 2026 and I'm asking for 2006 animations. Okay, this next one is a huge stretch. I don't think it will happen, but giving trainers an opportunity to change the art style of the game that they're playing would be insane. Let the players pick what style they want to see whenever they're playing the game. I would love to be able to play the game with Gen 3 sprites or Gen 1 sprites and colors, or go to grayscale. Go back to 3D animation, or maybe even the Gen 5 sprites with the small movements that they make without being just 3D models that sit there and don't do anything the entire battle. Imagine playing a Generation 9 Pokemon like Tinkaton or Armarouge and seeing them in your Generation 1 sprite category with no color or limited color, or seeing them in Generation 5's animated pixel art. I think it would just be so cool, and if they did this, it would just really hammer home that they want this game to last as long as they possibly can. And of course, something that this game has been needing, especially since Scarlet and Violet, we need better arenas to battle in. I miss my Generation 8 massive stadium full of people. I miss the variety from Pokemon XD. We need to be able to change the options for where we battle based on what we want, not based on just random chance of hoping we get a good stadium. I want to have my own personalized battle arena and my opponent to have theirs, and it's a 50-50 chance for every battle we go into to see whose arena we get. Last thing to address when talking about cosmetics in this game, we need more music. Give us everything. I need every piece of Pokemon music we've had over the past 30 years. I need every single track imported into this game. It doesn't matter how we unlock them, it doesn't matter how we get them. I just need to have access to all of my music. I know I'm not alone in this. Everyone has their favorite generation of music, everyone has their favorite track, and giving us the opportunity to listen to that no matter when we want, no matter what game we're playing, would just be amazing. It would be perfect. I think the only way to make this even better would be if there are gimmicks like Terras, Megas, etc., which we know there are, give us as trainers the opportunity to change the music whenever we activate that gimmick. If I Mega Evolve my Charizard, I want the music to switch to his specific theme. Let me give my own Charizard his own entrance music every time he gets to Mega Evolve. Every time a Dragonite Terras to normal type to try and click extreme speed, let me change the pace of the music. There's no way that this is actually going to happen, but this could be an amazing feature to add later in the game's lifespan. So unfortunately, if we're going to be adding customization like this, there would most likely be some monetization attached to it as well, maybe through microtransactions or something else, but most likely it would happen. And I have a little bit of a hot take here. Sometimes monetization is a good thing for a game. If it's a good game that runs well and rewards its players and also has options to play the game without needing any microtransaction type stuff, that can be a pretty good thing. And I think customization like trainer arenas, trainer appearance, Pokemon costumes, anything like that could all be good additions to the game while still being a healthy dose of microtransactions. I know, I don't want this to happen either. However, this is kind of just the world we live in, and if they are going to introduce this level of customization, most likely they would monetize it. We just need it to be reasonable. I also think that this game is probably going to get some type of battle pass feature, and if it doesn't, I'm not super opposed to it, so long as it's actually a realistic approach to a battle pass and not something crazy out of touch with reality. Unironically, Fortnite has one of the best battle pass systems I've ever seen, where once you purchase the battle pass once, you can actually earn enough in-game currency to purchase the next battle pass without having to spend any real money. So if we are to see a battle pass in this game, I really hope that they adopt the Fortnite model. So I might be asking, what's the point of the battle pass? We're just playing the same battles over and over. I think it might also be a good idea for them to include something that's not just trainer versus trainer battles, but instead add some modes where you don't have to play up against opposing trainers, but instead you're running up against computers. I'm talking specifically modes similar to how we saw with the Battle Tower or Mount Battle from older games. These would be really helpful for giving players an opportunity to actually learn how to play the game if they haven't played it very much, as well as also offering a system to be put in place that allows players to play the game without having to worry about going up against players all the time. You could hit a daily battle count, you could go up against mini bosses, you could complete challenges using specific Pokemon or specific types of teams. This would just be a really cool way to kind of add something extra to the game without it just being PvP battles all the time. Then moving on to rewards for the game, and I don't think this needs to be Battle Pass exclusive, but it could be in addition to that as well. If we did get some kind of versus computer mode, now we have a way to earn rewards without playing up against exclusively other trainers, but instead facing down computers, perhaps even with specific challenges set in place. We already know that the game is getting its own currency, so maybe beating the more generic bots would reward that, or even specific Pokemon or battle items. However, maybe every now and then you get tasked with fighting a specific mini-boss, who could reward more specific stuff. Maybe beating Cynthia will earn you a Garchomp. Maybe beating Mirror B would earn you his Afro. Things like this would be a good incentive to play the game without needing to just feel like we have to battle just to earn rank points. They could even host periodic events where a new mini-boss would drop, and they would drop an exclusive item, Pokemon, etc., and they would only be available for that specific time. I think this would be another good way for them to introduce mythical Pokemon as well. It's safe to say that Champions is going to have a huge focus on accessibility, and I think there's no better way to increase accessibility for this game than to introduce something along the lines of a public forum where you can post your teams and people can rent them and try them out themselves. We have had this system in the past, but we need a better way to access this without going to someone's Twitter profile and hoping that they posted their team. There needs to be a better way to pick up a team without having to build it all yourself, and having a team rental option where you can search maybe even by a specific Pokemon, or just search by win rate or popularity. Being able to find a rental for that and then pick it up yourself would be a great way for people to learn the game without also having to build a team from scratch anytime they want to try something. Going back to what I said about completing challenges, this could also be a good way for people to achieve those without having to build an entirely new team. Maybe there's a challenge where it's use a team with 3 fire types and you don't feel like putting all of that together, but then someone posted a rental for you to use specifically for that challenge. Now you can use that team. Okay, now is the most controversial part of the video, where I have a proposal for a change that Pokemon has never done before and probably will never do, and that is introduce balance patches. Given that this is going to be a live service game, it could be really interesting to see changes to the game itself happen over time. I'm talking specific things like changing the base power of a move, changing the effect of a move, changing the stats of a specific Pokemon, or even doing something like updating an ability mid-season. And it's definitely safe to say that a lot of people like Pokemon for its rigidity, and being that you have to learn to adapt simply to the metagame itself, not just with changes to specific numbers or whatever effects you may have. My counterpoint to that is, imagine a Regulation H of Scarlet and Violet, where there was a patch a couple weeks into the game's lifespan that said, hey, Dire Claw no longer has a chance to paralyze or sleep. And I think things like that specifically could be very healthy for the game. Basically, I would want patches to be used in one of 2 ways, either to nerf something that is blatantly overpowered or unhealthy for the game, i.e. Dire Claw Sneasler, that thing is a problem, or buff up Pokemon that are just not seeing any usage based on their numbers, their stats, or their move spread. Obviously, something like Mightyena isn't going to be very good unless they really super buff its stats, but giving it an opportunity to do something different could be a nice change. And if we were going back to the lower power format as well, then maybe doing something like giving Mightyena a 10-point attack increase could actually be the difference maker in its viability. There's also the opportunity to change how abilities work, so something like Mamoswine having Oblivious used to not be very good at all, but ever since they buffed it so that way Intimidate is now blocked by Oblivious, Mamoswine got a lot better. And I think if they were to do that mid-season with some of the less used Pokemon, or Pokemon that don't have very good abilities, could be a really good way to keep the game fresh. I think this can definitely get a little tricky, but I think having something like community voting on patch changes could also be a good way to kind of gauge what needs to happen and prevent it from getting too out of hand. I don't think every Pokemon should be buffed to become viable, but I think just small changes throughout the game, or specifically making sure that overpowered things don't last very long, again, Dire Claw Sneasler, could be a good way to help keep the game feeling good if there is a problematic mon that exists. Alright, last thing I need to talk about, and it's something that I'm just kind of passionate about just because I want to see going into Champions, or at least Generation 10 and then maybe Champions after, I want to see a change to the type chart. Specifically, I want Bug type to be super effective against Fairy, and I want Bug to resist Fairy. This is super out of left field, but I don't care. It's what I want for Champions. I'm putting it in the video. I don't care. I need you to think for a second about how big a change like this could be while hardly changing anything within the game's code. I'm not asking Bug to be reworked against anything else on the type chart. I just want to take the best type in the game and match it up against the worst type in the game in a really negative way. Because now, all of a sudden, Fairy types have to deal with a much bigger threat from a very common set of mons, and Bug type stocks go way up. If you can now resist the best type in the game and also hit it for super effective, that's a huge change to how the entire game would interact, and going forward would have massive implications for how the game is played without affecting the other 16 types on the chart. Also, I think it just makes sense. Fairy is already weak to Poison, and Poison already resists Fairy. Bug and Poison are super common types together, and it just makes a lot of sense for Fairies not to appreciate the creepy crawly bugs. The Fairies are pure and clean, and bugs are creepy and gross and weird, right? Like, just, it makes sense lore-wise, at least in my brain. It makes sense on the type chart, and I think it's a good way to make sure Fairy types aren't the most overpowered pieces of garbage we've ever seen. So that's going to do it for today's video. I did do it a little bit last minute, but it is what it is. Just some stuff I want to talk about, some things I want to see in Pokemon Champions. Let me know what you think about all of the stuff that I've talked about. If you agree with it, if you disagree with it, if you were going to add anything, what would it be? Hopefully tomorrow Champions will go live. I will be streaming during that as well. If it doesn't go live, I'm going to be very sad, but it is what it is. Just let me know what you guys think about this, though. I'm really curious. This is just some stuff I wanted to talk about. But that's going to do it for today, so hopefully I'll be back soon. Hopefully I'll see you guys in Pokemon Champions. Bye.